Hello and welcome to the Counterpoint podcast. This week we are looking back at the second quarter in the second largest smartphone market in the world, which is India. And I'm delighted to be joined by Shilpi Jain today. How are you doing today, Shilpi?
I'm good, Peter. How are you?
Yeah, very well, very well. It's I'm still based out of my home, so the usual caveats apply about barking dogs, shouting children, and I had some guys chopping trees down outside of my office window earlier, so I think they're on their lunch break. So we'll get cracking and hope they don't fire up their chainsaws before we finish. So we're looking back at the second quarter, which finished a few weeks ago. Obviously, this is, I mean, we're calling it the COVID-19 quarter. There may be more COVID impacted quarters to come, but India saw a pretty strict lockdown. So, can you talk through, the highlights of what happened during the quarter? Both from a supply side, because there's quite a bit of production that takes place in India, and then on the demand side or sales side as well.
Yeah, sure. When we look at India market, we witnessed a lockdown from 25th of March, where the initial lockdown was for the period of 21 days, and then it was extended in phases till 31st of May, with some relaxations were given in phases. So during April and last week of March, almost no production from handset side happened as all manufacturing operations were halted, which led to almost negligible sell-in in April. Though some sell-in happened when government started lifting lockdown restrictions in green zones. So where in Kerala, some meat store were opened and some sell-in happened in few parts of the country. If we talk from sales point of view, some sales happened through retailers where people who were in need, they used to contact their known retailers and the retailers used to deliver handsets to their home, but otherwise there was almost negligible sell in April. On 8th May, government gave approval to start manufacturing operations to major OEMs. So after that, Samsung, Xiaomi, Vivo, all major OEMs restarted their operations and started with the capacity at 20 to 30% because labors were migrated to their hometown. So there was labor migration issue. Once the production started, positive cases were found in Oppo factory, so it was shut from 17th May to 7th June, which affected its supply chain significantly, which was reflected in May numbers also. So this is from the supply point of view how it affected. If we talk about demand, there was pent up demand in the market due to the complete lockdown for almost 40 days, and since we saw growth of e-learning, remote working during this lockdown period, demand for smartphones also increased. So once the market was completely opened, unlocking was started. So we saw higher pent up demand and growth of online channels. Earlier in India market, offline channels was the dominating one, but during this pandemic, during this quarter two, online channel share increased as people preferred contactless purchasing and social distance practice. So the people who were even earlier hesitant to move to online channels were forced to shift to those channels due to this pandemic fear.
Mm, okay. I mean, it's a an amazingly kind of complex situation. So I think initially, the initial part of the lockdown, online deliveries of smartphones were not allowed, right? So at least through the large online e-tailer platforms like Amazon and Flipkart. So when were they allowed to start deliveries again?
For essential deliveries, it was allowed in April itself, but for smartphones, the delivery was allowed in mid of May. And also, retail shops started opening up in phases and depending on the basis of zones.
Yeah. So So what actually happened then to the actual market in terms of volumes? Did it, if April was almost a complete zero, so what did we see in terms of year over year or sequential growth rates for the second quarter?
Smartphone market declined 51% year-on-year basis in Q2 2020.
Okay, so basically halving in size.
Yeah, it was almost half of what it was in Q2 2019.
But was a lot of I mean, so a half is actually given the situation, that's not too bad, you could say. But how much of that was based on the you know the rebound in June once um, yeah shops were able to open and demand restarted?
June, we witnessed surge in demand. OEMs were also able to tackle supply issues. Some OEMs started importing fully assembled handsets due to manufacturing constraints in the country, like Xiaomi and Oppo. So June was almost reached to pre-COVID levels. Even it was higher than what it was in last year June.
Okay. So that's yes, that's interesting. And then, of course, there was this additional difficulty between India and China. So obviously, India and China share, some land border, and there was some tensions and actual, I think, some physical clashes between Indian and Chinese military forces. Which I think has also impacted, both the way the government sort of sees China and, Indian consumers as well. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, actually, if we talk about particularly anti-China sentiments, what triggered not only in India but across the world after this pandemic breakout. So when we were studying the market in April and May, some anti-China sentiments were already there due to COVID-19 situation and political tensions was going on between the two countries. But these border escalations, which happened on June 15th, it deepened these sentiments in the consumer's mind. Also, when it led to government banning all 51 Chinese apps and pitching for vocal for local movement by PM himself, so it further escalated these sentiments in consumers' mind. What we saw in quarter two, Chinese brand share declined. It was 81% in quarter one. Now it remained at 72% in quarter two. But I think it would be incorrect to say that it is solely because of anti China sentiments. There were many issues that Chinese OEMs were facing during the quarter, like there were supply issues, factories were not operating at full capacity, there was labor migration issue. Oppo factory was shut for almost 20 days, which led to significant decline in its shipments. Components imported from China were held up at customs, which led to delay of delivery of components. So all these factors combined together led to this decline.
And I mean, do you think this is well? I guess two questions. So one is, do you think that Indian consumers are, aware of the country of origin, if I can put it like that, even though that much of the manufacturing takes place in India now for many of these brands? But do you think that Indian consumers are aware that you know Xiaomi, Oppo, Vivo are Chinese companies? And I guess the second question, or second part of the question, then is looking forward. Is this likely to be a continuing factor in do you think in the market, or is it something which consumers will rationalize about and realize that the products that they like, very difficult to kind of move away from them. We obviously have Samsung, and Apple really at the very, relatively kind of premium brand, but most of the other, local brands like Micromax and so on have somewhat kind of fallen away. So, you're kind of left with Xiaomi, Oppo, Vivo as the major players, right?
So, like I told you, we did some consumer study in first week of May, where we did this survey to know if people are really aware about these things and uh, how significant these sentiments are. So from our survey, we got to know that almost majority of people now are now aware about origin of country, and even if those who are not aware, so they want to know about the origin of country. They consider it as a factor in their purchase now, and so they know that Xiaomi, Vivo, and Realme are Chinese companies.
So will it affect their future purchasing patterns, do you think?
I think it would be difficult to comment on because if we talk about their offerings, there is little choice with the consumers. If they want to shift from these brands to some other brands, so in the current situation, Samsung is the only brand which can cater to their demand, and there is no other brand at such a large scale as of now which can offer better specs, competitive pricing, which these Chinese brands offer. What, according to me, what needs to be done from these brands' side? They need to educate. They need to run awareness campaign basically to their retailers, because if we talk about manufacturing is happening in India. These brands are also manufacturing in India. Other brands are also manufacturing in India now, as 99% is domestic manufacturing now. But what people are not aware about, that even if it is non-Chinese phone, components are coming from China. So these things needs to be taught to retailers so that they can handle consumers' query in a way so that their shares don't get affected much.
Hmm. But does it open up a kind of a new window of opportunity for Micromax and Lava and potentially other non-Chinese players?
Yeah, recent developments has opened up this window for opportunity for local players like Lava, Carbon, and Micromax. And as we are hearing, they are now planning to re-enter the market with new products in budget segment, especially. But it will depend on how sooner they will act on it, because once these sentiments die, there will be no use to act on these in like after 3 months or 4 months. Also, it won't be possible without government support, as low cost funding would be needed. Chinese players still have that value for money offerings, local manufacturing and R&D operations, marketing strategies. So they will still face cutthroat competition.
Okay, yeah, great. So you've talked there about Micromax and Lava, potentially able to address opportunities at the lower end of the market. But I think one of the things that we saw, during the second quarter in India there was actually the premium side of the market actually held up pretty strongly. Um, so I'm kind of interested in why that was, and is it because the informal employment sector was more badly affected by the lockdown? So people kind of immediately kind of stopped spending in that part of the market, but those in the more affluent sectors were able to continue spending. Can you talk about some of the dynamics that you've seen there?
Yeah. So if we talk about India premium market, which accounts for $400 and above, so it was fastest growing market in 2019. Also, it was the only segment that we talk about in our forecast that would grow in 2020. And now, as we see in quarter two, it witnessed the entry of OEMs like Xiaomi and Oppo, which launched their flagship devices in the quarter. More OEMs are also now focusing on entering into this segment, as we all know, due to higher margins and to gain the mind share in consumers' mind in India market. Now, if we talk about why it was not affected to that extent, premium market is where the price sensitivity is least. Consumers in this segment are not sensitive to price movements. Their main drivers are trying or exploring new technologies, new gadgets in the market, status symbol. They used their smartphones as status symbol. So these are the factors which, even if your incomes are getting affected to some extent, the consumers won't be compromising on that. So that's why the if we talk about absolute shipments, it declined in this segment also. But yes, the premium segment market reached its highest ever share in quarter two. OnePlus also launched its 8 series. Apple came up with the iPhone SE 2020, which drove the demand in this segment.
Okay, and I think one of the other factors that we've seen. I mean, not just in India, but globally, is this much more people working from home. I mean, Google were out in the last day or so saying that that many of their workers will not return to the office until well into 2021. So working from home is going to be a kind of a continuing factor. As I mean, it's the summer holidays where I am, but it doesn't seem that much different to how it was a few weeks ago when my kids were theoretically in school, albeit working. They were accessing learning resources from home as well. So this sort of distance education is going to be, again, part of this new normal, at least for a while. So the smartphone has become a very important tool, not only for entertainment but also for accessing work and education. So I mean, one of the things that we've seen over the last few years in India is the smart feature phone market, and the feature phone market itself have both been, continuing components, albeit falling away. But so, what happened in the second quarter here for the feature phone market?
Yeah, feature phone market was worst hit during the quarter as it declined 60 by 68% year-on-year basis. So, you rightly mentioned, e-learning was growing, remote working was increasing due to this pandemic as more people were working from home. So, for children who are now learning through smartphones, parents are now buying budget segment for, smartphones. So in the people who were earlier on feature phones now have to, they are compelled to move to entry level smartphones to support their children education. And that's why we can see more budget segment phones are getting launched. Samsung has recently launched M01 core, Realme has launched C11, Xiaomi Redmi 8A Dual is doing great. So we witnessed this, and this is also evident from figures. In India market, unique smartphone users has closed 500 million, and feature phone users have now declined to 350 million. So yeah, it's happening in India, and we expect this trend to continue in upcoming time also.
All right. So, well, I think that's a good point on which to leave it. So, 500 million smartphone users in India. Quite an amazing milestone. So let's wrap it up there. Shilpi, thanks very much for joining the call today. Have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, thanks, Peter.
Yeah, great. And for everyone else, thanks for listening into the podcast. And look out for we have kind of regular series of reports on how the market's progressing in different countries around the world. So look out for those, and also look out for the next in the Counterpoint podcast series. Thanks for joining today. Bye now.